kick off right into a little discussion. I know we talk about it lots, but we're always getting lots of new subscribers. We don't have comments on our channel. They were disabled by YouTube. It's not our choice. I know people would love to be able to kind of build a community in the comments. Unfortunately, we have our kids in our videos, especially we used to have our kids in our videos a lot more back when.
We don't know why.
They don't communicate with you. They just, well, I have talked to them and they said that you have kids in your video, full stop, no comments, no chance. You know, we've talked to other creators who've had this happen and YouTube is, you know, given them the same, you know, basically it's not happening explanation. And even when I was like, you know, there's other creators who have kids in their videos who do similar type of content.
They were like, well, not for long.
they didn't say that, but they kind of maybe insinuated that maybe that would be the future. We don't know. Yeah. Basically.
But so we love to hear from you guys. We don't have, it's not like we've disabled the comments. It's just the platform, YouTube, has done it. So we do community posts. And we have comments there. And so we do one to correspond with every video that we release. We don't do them for the live videos because I'm always surprised you guys watch these live videos as I ramble on for 3 hours like last week. But yeah, so if you want to find the community tab, because I know it's not always obvious where it is, if you go to like You Can't Eat the Grass homepage on YouTube, there is like a bar along the top. There'll be like videos, and on desktop community you can see it, and on mobile you have to like scroll over, like pull it over to get the tab. But that is, as far as I know, the easiest way to access it. And I think the more that you the more you engage with our community posts, the more likely they are to pop up into your like main feed. And
even there, we have our comments restricted where we have to approve all them. So we do read all your comments.
Yeah, so don't freak out if it doesn't pop in right away. You've made your comment.
Yeah.
We manually approve everything because we want to be very careful that those comments don't disappear.
Exactly. That nothing bad pops through, just because there's lots of spam on YouTube.
Yeah, and people say horrible things.
Yeah, and we've had people say horrible things on comments before. So, you know, I know it's disappointing that we don't have comments, but I understand where YouTube's coming from on this one.
Yeah.
It's a very tough problem, and it's about protecting kids. So, you know, if this is the sacrifice
we support that. We support doing what it takes for YouTube, which is basically the dark web, to be a little bit safer for children. Also, we have Facebook and we have Instagram, and we have our links to find those in the description of all of our videos. You know, there's like the drop down option. You know, we have what we're doing in the video, and then you keep scrolling down and we got all of our links in there. Yeah. So they should be even in this specific video.
Lots of our Facebook, because our Facebook automatically posts when we post a video. It automatically gets posted up there, and then there's comments up there, and it's a little bit easier for us to interact.
Yeah, usually
with those, if like back and forth. The studio app that we use for like on our mobiles for our YouTube channel, it is a little bit more limited in what you can do than when you're on like an actual computer and you have a keyboard in front of you and stuff, and you can just, you know, access the YouTube editing stuff from there. And so like dealing with comments can be a little tough on the studio app. So we don't always get a chance to reply because we're really tight for time. You know, any time that isn't spent doing the farm stuff or doing the YouTube stuff, you know, we're either cleaning up or trying to, you know,
but we try to read them all, because your guys' insight is super helpful to us to know what you're looking for on the channel, because our goal is to make videos you guys want to watch. So,
and there's also
we love getting the feedback.
There's also been stuff that we've learned through the comments that have helped us to farm better as well.
Oh yeah.
And
totally.
You know, so we really
we love hearing when we're doing something wrong.
I love doing these live videos. These are a really fun time. They are a bit of a rush because it's like all Sunday. You're like, oh my God, we got to get all this done before the live video. And then tomorrow's the first day of the school week, and so you gotta get the kids all organized and done from the weekend chaos and kind of back into the schedule and stuff, and find where all the stuff is that's been played with all over the house. So Sundays are a busy day, but every day is a busy day. So
and we're
it's just fun to do this.
It's fun to get to engage with you guys, especially because the comments aren't there. And we hope to be able to keep doing the Sunday lives into the farm season. Sundays we usually sell out on the roadside, so it's a little hectic. We might have to play around with the timing.
We'll see. But I think in general the time slot will work. Still, we can make it work.
So as things get more crazy, we are hoping to keep doing this.
Yeah, because the season definitely is about to start ramping up. We're really excited because I'm not sure who watched that most recent video, because not a lot of people compared to normal watched it.
We don't normally release videos on the weekends. Yeah. So.
But we go into how we've been doing a lot of stuff in the outbuilding, in the kind of like main space in there, and it's gonna get painted next weekend, and after that, it is gonna look so good in there compared to what it did last year, where it was like sprawled with junk. And
there's still gonna be junk.
There's still gonna be junk.
I'm not committing.
Well,
to not.
We have shipping containers now. We got 2 shipping containers delivered a little while ago. So there's no reason for anything to be in that building that doesn't need to be in that building anymore. And so the clutter is going to be way down. And we're gonna make it look real good in there. So it's just exciting to have this new space.
Yeah, it's gonna look so good. So Ian's been doing all this prep on it. We show some stuff of what it looks like in that video, because we basically do like a quick tour. And what day we filmed that on?
Somebody's asking how long you have to watch the ads. Don't watch the ads, just skip them.
Yeah. you have to watch the ads until the quickest you can possibly skip them. Yeah, so when do we film that? Friday? I think it was Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the kids were in school. Yeah, so we filmed that on Friday. So that is like really recent to what it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forget where I was going with this. Oh, because we're gonna get it painted, right? That's where I was going.
Yeah.
Ian's almost 100% finished prepping it for painting.
Yeah.
And I go in there and I can see the vision. I'm like, oh, it's gonna look so good. But once it's all white, start to cover the fact that it's plywood walls instead of drywall walls.
Yeah, and
it's gonna be so transformative.
All the walls were kind of they weren't the drywall. Well, the plywood didn't meet up in the corners; it would be all off and stuff. So I was trying to just make everything flat. So I hammered a bunch of the boards down, or fooled around with it till the walls look a lot flatter. And then once it's all painted, it's not going to be perfect. There's going to be a lot of character. I like to call it a lot of character. There's a lot of character on those walls, and that's fine. It'll look great, and on camera it'll look really good.
Wait, I'm getting a text. I hope that's not buzzing for you guys.
And then we've got some art.
Oh yeah, I don't know if we've told you this, but here, sit up a bit because your hands are going down low and then it's making it bounce. So I'm gonna do a mural. This is my big plan, because I'm all oh, it's gonna look so good. In my head, I can see what it's gonna look like. Year 7, when everything's in place and everything's all perfect. So it's super exciting for me to be taking steps towards its final perfected. Yeah. But so in my vision, I want a color palette for the farm, where we have features all over the place, and they're always in the color palette that I'm obsessed with, which is the Okanagan color palette, which is the blue lake, the yellow hills because it's dead grass,
Yellows and browns.
It's like yellows and browns because the hillsides are like grassy and then they die in the summer. So it's like the classic summer.
Like
and
golden.
Then, like a golden glowing, like a really, really rich, almost like desert yellows.
Yeah, and then we don't have like a lot of humidity, so there's not a lot of clouds.
Yeah, and then it's like blue sky, right? So like this like really like, like bright turquoisey aqua blue, and then with the yellows and like almost like ochre is like, so that's the color palette that I want. And so
it's gonna be kind of like sky, and then just
I haven't even said that.
Well,
so
no, just sunset.
let me okay, so what we're gonna do in the outbuilding is we're gonna paint a mural. We're gonna paint like a really stylized mural of that image, right? Like the blue like a strip of blue, strip of yellows to be to be the mountains, and then the blue again. So we're gonna have this like feature wall, mural wall, and it's like basically like I'm like we need to get all these like selfie spots on the farm, right? Because that's like
that's one of the secrets for having a good
on like event space is like selfie spots.
Yeah, you gotta have places where people will take their picture and then like hashtag and that's just the reality of what you got to do to be an event space now.
And plus, then Ian and I like imagine it's behind us for our live videos. Like
we also have for our live video.
Well, okay, so I've been talking about maybe setting up because this is our bedroom and we've been doing it in here because it's away from the kids. But our house is so big, we have an empty room.
Yeah, it's one of those old houses with like a million rooms in it, and like some of the rooms just don't get used that much. So we have another it's a spare bedroom, but nobody ever comes and visits us. So
and we if they did, we usually set them up in the outbuilding where they have their like own kitchenette and own bathroom.
Yeah, we don't even have a bed in the room. It's just like kind of an empty room, and so we're like, we could set up a like live video spot there with Serena has been putting together some more t-shirt art and she wants to get printouts.
Okay, it's very far in the future. We can't tease. Oh yeah, because this is our last merch. And we're really happy with how this worked out. But yeah, we need
this is actually like this really is cool.
Yeah. I'm like super into this because this is
not just for the channel, but just for the farm as well. Like,
totally.
Because
we commissioned this using like pictures that we like sent of the house and stuff. It's like.
And this one was a bit expensive to get made, and it all matters how much time the artist has to put into the art for the cost. Right?
Yeah, it was like it wasn't expensive for how good it is.
Yeah, for how good it is. Yeah. How much we're gonna use it over the years.
Yeah.
But it's probably 5 times pricier than some of the other.
Or more.
Or more.
Yeah.
And so there's another artist.
Yeah.
That does.
And like Art Nouveau.
Art Nouveau.
But I don't know. We still I haven't given her money yet. So.
Yeah, but she's.
But yeah. Anyway, so we're planning on making like Team Flower versus Team Veggie.
Yeah.
Merch for that will be able to
put
out in the summer.
Art Nouveau style, so it'll be like us in kind of like that toga white sheet type thing.
Yeah.
And like the Team Flower will be me, and I'm holding this like plentiful
bouquet of flowers.
And the flowers are just like coming out everywhere, and
and then it's gonna be like me with like
the cornucopia
veggies, and I'm all like I got like a cornucopia of veggies.
Yeah,
it's gonna be,
and they're gonna be like taller rectangles, right? Because it'll be the full body shot.
It'll be like a rectangle, like a normal rectangle. Yeah. But I'm pretty excited because it's gonna be ridiculous. It's gonna be so funny.
It's gonna be really funny.
Yeah, like totally. Okay, let's do the vote, and then we'll get into the topic because this is getting very, very Serena and Ian. Because we haven't even hit on what we're talking about, which is an exciting topic.
Yeah.
Okay, so Team Flowers or Team Veggies.
Yeah, represent.
Get your votes in.
Team Veggie is gonna lose like last week.
obviously not, because we're talking about the farm. So Team Flowers or Team Veggies is gonna be coming out strong. Oh, there, Team Ian in a flower crown.
Yeah. Flowers big lead. Flowers big lead. Flowers big lead.
Guys.
Yeah, let's keep the pedal to the metal. If we can keep pulling with the flowers. Oh yeah, this is definitely. I'm calling it.
It is seeming. It is seeming very.
Keep up with the flowers. Keep up with the flowers, fam. You made a bit of a comeback there, but okay. So we are getting.
Okay, so since Team Flowers, I admit Team Flowers won this week. So we will start with some info about the farm about flowers. We'll start with flowers first. I the other night started how many? 1,000 flowers. I seeded snapdragons and rudbeckia I have like trays that have 200 plugs. So they take forever. It took me like 2 hours because snapdragon seeds are like, imagine grains of sand and then wish they were the size of grains of sand. Snapdragons are a pain. But so I seeded up all my snapdragons. I do chantilly lace. Is that?
I thought it was just chantilly.
Maybe chantilly. I mean, chantilly is a lace, but maybe it's just chantilly. Snapdragons, they are my earlier snapdragon. And then following that, probably like I guess it's crazy. We're like a few hours away from March, which is like crazy to me. But yeah, into March, I will then seed my rocket. And I think I have Potomac on hand.
Potomac?
I don't know. Whatever.
Potomac is a river. I would assume that it would be named after.
Are you sure it's not the Potomac River? Anyways, what Ian said. I have some of those. So I'll start later. But yeah. And then for flowers, I have my eucalyptus, and it's looking really good.
Yeah, it's doing really good.
Yeah, people keep like sending me messages on Instagram being like, "What did you do? Because mine sucks." And like super easy. Like it took a long time to germinate. It was a slow to germinate. But it came up nice and strong. So I don't know. Yeah. As far as
they're doing so good that the other day I had to chase a koala out of there.
That is a horrible joke. I was like, what? What was it? Then I was like, oh, it's like a groaner. Yeah. The internet, like, okay, I'm gonna offend some people here, but I'm just gonna say it because I'm offensive like that. Seed starting is really easy, and people on the internet all the time are like, it's so hard, and it hurts my, like, especially for stuff like tomatoes. Like tomatoes, like you drop them on the ground. There's like a farmer that we follow on Facebook, and the other day he posted, and he's like, tomatoes, look, these are like seeds that fell off the workbench, and they're like just growing on wood with like no dirt. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, tomatoes.
Tomatoes start themselves.
Yeah. But I guess like it needs to be warm. You need to like give them some heat.
I think the tough part about seed starting is the consistency.
Yeah.
You have to like every day. You have to, water.
Yeah. And I agree.
And you have to stick to that schedule.
I agree with that too. And so there was a bunch of farmers who were having a discussion about like seed starting, in the vein of like seed starting is hard, and shaking my head, judging, because I'm not a nice person. And someone made the point, they're like, you need to understand about watering. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, totally. That 100% makes sense. Because if they're not wet enough, it's not going to germinate, right? And if they're too wet, it's not going to germinate. And he was making the point that watering is like an art, to know how much water to put onto something. And so I think it's just something that I take for granted
I would
that
say
I understand how to properly water potting soil.
In general, potting soil is usually you got to water a little more than you think.
Yeah, well, I mean, let me give you my trick. So my trick for potting soil is so I fill my trays dry, and then I water them, and I like water, and then I like wait, and then I water them again, and then I'll like water them a third time. I like absolutely drench the trays, and then I take the trays where I've like just drowned them, and then I seed into them. Right. So I think because I'm starting with a completely saturated potting soil, it's then making it easier to just maintain it. Whereas if I put my seeds in and then I tried to water it, it would be really difficult to water it well enough without washing my seeds away.
Yeah. And then when you're watering it in the future, usually you go over it and you water it kind of like just before that point where it starts to get like mucky or starts to disturb stuff. And then you water the next tray, and then you come back and you water that one again. Yeah, you can water again. So if it's repelling. Anytime we're watering
and someone in the chat there made a really good point, which is a good way is you learn the weight, right? Because I always use the same trays. When I pick it up, I instantly know if it's heavy enough.
Yeah. Because it should be. Because
it should have, you know, like
you should be picking up the trays by the side instead of the lengthways.
But how did this come up? Oh, my offensive. Flowers. Oh, me being offensive.
Because you think that starting seeds are easy. Yeah. But you've also been doing it for a long time, and so it's a bit of second nature.
Yeah, totally. But
also
no, I was being generally offensive, but now I need to be like more specifically offensive about eucalyptus. This is what it was. Because everyone's saying it's hard.
But you have like 100% germination.
And it was so easy for me. And like the internet said they were going to be really difficult, and I was kind of surprised because my personal understanding of eucalyptus is it's basically like willows in Australia, and they're like weeds, right? As long as they're getting enough water, they should just like be hard to keep up with.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but for people who are specifically looking for tips for the eucalyptus, I honestly, the only thing I can think that I did that other people haven't, beyond like that thing that I was saying about having like proper water in the potting soil, is I bought my seeds from Johnny's. There's this year specifically, I've heard there's like lots of really bad seed sources for eucalyptus because Australia burnt down last year. Eucalyptus is something that actually does have like global seed shortages of right now, because of issues.
Yeah.
All I can guess is maybe people are getting bad seed.
Now we're moving on to because we're still talking about flowers because Team Flower won.
Exciting! And I've been so excited.
In just over a week, I am driving to Vancouver to pick up all of our dahlias and what else is in that order?
All the perennials.
Yeah.
This is like the order that I've been like teasing.
It's a big order.
That it's going to be like the most exciting, like the unboxing to end all unboxings because it's all of like the perennials, like. There's a lot of stuff.
It was pretty funny because we put together a big order. It was like 6,000.
Well, okay. Well, anyways, so we
was a lot.
No, we have to tell the backstory. We have to tell the backstory because the story's too funny.
Yeah, no,
I'll make it. Let me tell it, and then you can tell about picking it up.
Okay, I'll come back in 10 minutes.
No, I'll make it quick. Okay, so I put in my order. You like fill in a PDF for ordering wholesale. This is like my Van Noort wholesale order. So I filled in the PDF. Sent it off to our sales rep, and then Ian gets a phone call
the next morning,
and like I was in bed still, or like or it was to his whatever, and the rep's like, hey, I just like wanted to like check in with you guys. Like I see you made this like really big order, like that's so exciting that you're like expanding the farm.
Yeah.
And he did this like chatty. He was like, normally I'd come up and have visited you guys by now.
Yeah.
And Ian like
I was like, okay, yeah, this is a big order. we put in a big order.
And okay,
and
so
like,
one thing you guys need to understand is for Ian, one of the biggest value of these live videos is that I have someone who listens to me talk about all my seeds and stuff.
What I like
I'm like
what
you
I
guys
say
think 3 hours of me is too much.
Leah or Serena has to get her words out. Is what it is. This is like I'll be cleaning in the kitchen. Say I'm emptying the dishwasher, and Serena's like, and then I'll be like, I'll be
I don't know
the
about you
laundry,
guys, but I can load a dishwasher and have a conversation at the same
No,
time.
but I'll move into a corner and you'll follow me, and then I'll turn around with some plates and I'll like, get out of my way. And then I'll
be because I'll be like, what do you think?
You'll be like,
what do you think? Should I do this? Should I I'm like, well, how many perennials do you think I should get? Do you think I should buy this? Do you think I should buy that? And he'll be actively engaging. He'll be like, oh yeah, oh no, I don't think you should do that one. No. And then he just walks away. I'm in the middle, we're halfway through the conversation, just he goes outside, and I'm like, what? Where are you going?
I'm like, I have stuff to do.
So basically, he's perfected the art of making the appropriate responses without listening at all.
I listen.
So when the guy phones him up and he's like, oh, so a lot of perennials, huh? Ian's like, yeah, I don't know. She's been talking about a lot of perennials, but I don't know.
Well, he wasn't naming specific things.
Yeah.
The point is that something got screwed up on the PDF, and Serena literally ordered one of everything that they have. So
not even, because it was the multiples of some stuff. It didn't look like it auto-filled with one of everything. But it looked like a real order. But it was a lot. Yeah, but it was thousands.
Tens of thousands. It was $15,000, I think.
Yeah.
And
whereas our order we actually made is $6,000. So we were like, yeah, it's a pretty big order, but
it made sense to me because I'm like, yeah, we're getting we're investing in perennial type stuff and different bulbs.
Yeah, but so the guy's are you sure you're gonna be able to get all these into the ground quickly enough? Have you ramped? And Ian's like.
I'm like, I don't care. We'll get them all in the ground, or we'll have 10% of them don't get into the ground or something like that, and it makes
more sense about the guy phoning with his concerns.
Yeah.
Because we go from making this small order to we're building a 20-acre perennial farm type order. But yeah. But quietly. But yeah, so our daughter thinks that this is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I have to admit, I think it's kind of funny too.
Okay. But yeah, so we fixed it. We didn't actually go ahead with that because that order didn't even have the things I wanted on it.
It was totally different stuff.
To me, it almost seemed like someone else's order had accidentally popped into our email, or I don't even know. Or the cats were walking on the keyboard. But anyway, so this is the order, and it's coming.
And it's got all our dahlias. Because between Vancouver and Kelowna is a mountain pass. And so it can be cold there. You can get snowstorms, most months of the year. It can get below zero. It can be cold. And this is where all of our dahlias are coming. So we were worried about our dahlias dying and shipping. And because of that, they were worried too.
They won't ship to us until it's safe to ship, right? So they keep in mind the dahlia tubers freezing in transport, and they won't send them out until it's safe. But we want them earlier
so we can pot them up,
so that we can get them looking good for Mother's Day, right? So basically, as soon as they come in, we're gonna start potting them up.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you're a big
there's over 500 dahlias
you can wave
in there, which don't get too excited because most of them we're selling. But there's 400 dinner plates. I'm excited for all of our customers for the seedling sale because so many people wanted the dinner plates last year.
Yeah. And
we potted up 100 for last year, and they were instantly gone. And people were like, I'll take anything. I'll take whatever you have. And so this year I ordered like very intentionally, because people wanted sets of 3. People wanted they wanted a red and yellow variegated one with a red and a yellow to complement it. So, all the ordering that I did is so that they can be sold in these like sets of 3. Lots of options. It's
what else
going to be really exciting.
Because we literally just put in our order for 2021 now too. So it's like I don't even remember, like we haven't even picked up 2020's order or 2021's order, and we had to order for 2022.
Yeah. 2022 spring.
Yeah. Or
what we receive in the fall. They said you should probably order this sooner rather than later. And then that's the one that I was like chatting with you guys about. And I disregarded everyone who was like, "Oh, don't go too crazy."
She went crazy.
And I think we bought like 4,000 tulips, which it's more than moderate.
We're gonna do it.
Moderate was like to do a 2,000 order. But
I'm hoping by that time, like by 2022 spring, that we could have that roadside stand. I'm not 100% on it because
I don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah, but there's a chance. And if we did, then we could sell tulips in the spring from the roadside stand. Yeah. We could probably do it.
I mean, honestly, if I have like 4,000 tulips and it's like, oh my god, they're not selling, we don't have enough customers, we can just like set up on the road every day.
Yeah.
And just sell them.
Like buckets and buckets of tulips. People are going to
yeah. Our neighbors like set up and like sell their eggs. Like people just like pull over on the way home. We could set up 3 to 4 every day and blow through them.
I think that we wouldn't
or not or like whatever. We'll just let them all bloom and they'll look ridiculously good.
Oh, I'm so excited.
We'll make a tulip festival video.
More people will enjoy the flowers online than will in person.
That is true.
So that's
our flowers bring more joy to all of you than they do to anyone at the farm.
And they're timeless.
Yeah, and they just keep blooming. Okay, so what else?
What else is in that order?
There's a bunch of grasses. This is like there's 2 things that I'm like I keep remembering.
Gigantus?
Yeah. So we have like a bunch of different miscanthus grasses.
Because we can't grow the pampas.
Yeah. And so we want to build we want to use this miscanthus gigantus, which is like crazy. It's massive. And then it's cold hardy, and we want to use it to create kind of a hedge along the fence line with our neighbors where the chickens are, because the chickens have started to dig out the fence line, which is bad.
I could see us using it as a hedge in a lot of spots.
Yeah.
If it works out like we want it to.
Yeah.
Stop.
And then we have like some other decorative miscanthuses coming, which have like really pretty flowers. Yeah, no, don't. This is annoying.
We're given the eviction notice. You can sit here.
Yeah, you can sit beside us, but that's just like kicking us. So a bunch of that, and then the thing I'm absolutely most excited about is I have Baptisia coming. So I have like a pack of that, and flower farmers say it makes like this incredible filler, and it's like really pretty. It's native to North America, which is like fun. It's everything I want in a plant. It's cold hardy, drought tolerant, and prolific and tall. It's like my flower wish list. And then I also have like some yarrows coming, some like really fun yarrows. I have a bunch of lilies. Ian was mad at me because I bought Casablanca. Okay, but go now, thank you. And close the door. No, Leah, no. Okay, go now, please. Okay. We've like talked about not doing this, and yet she still does it. Okay. Lilies. Okay, yeah. So I bought all these. I bought Casablanca and I bought Stargazer. Super, super classic. Like the ones like you see, like super classic lilies. But they're very fragrant, which
And
I love. I love the smell of lilies.
I think she's gonna get over them in a little while. I'm team flower, but I'm also anti stink. And to me, the lilies.
Ian doesn't like anything with a fragrance.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Ian's like unscented soap. He's like that kind of guy.
My
sit up because it's doing the thing.
My nightmare situation is to be stuck in a hot shower with like Axe body detergent. You know, like those just super perfumey like fragrances, and it would just like burn my nose and be like, no.
And I don't like that either. But I really like the lily smell.
The field of lilies was a bit much.
But I will agree with him. The lilies weren't anywhere near the house, but there was 200 and they all bloomed at the same time. You know, basically we planted them and we grew them and then we didn't actually cut and use any of them. So they all just opened up and they all bloomed. And it was like you walked out of the house into the yard and it was like a wall of scent. It was like I was like, oh, it smells so good.
I'm still excited for them this year because you know this is year 2. And so like they got last year to get established and they're gonna be way bigger this year.
Yeah.
And that's exciting.
Okay, but so I bought lilies again this year, even though Ian's like, no more lilies. But I bought all the unscented lilies, and there's like some really cool colors.
Yeah.
So we're gonna like use some of them in the landscaping. But I think most of them will be like a permanent planting. Yeah. And
then somebody was asking about peonies. We haven't done. We are going to invest heavily into peonies.
You can tell the peony story.
But we have a bunch of cherry trees where we want to put the peonies right now. There's trees there. There's also stumps from old trees that are like serious, you know, like get a backhoe type stumps. And so I have to.
And we're going to be doing work in that area because it's where our water line goes. Yeah. We still have like a big irrigation job to do over the summer.
So it's on my project list to clear up a bed for peonies, but it's not happening 2021. It would be nice. It would be nice if it could happen.
Ian really wants
spring 2022 because every year.
Well, but apparently fall's the. I mean, I haven't.
Oh yeah, we can plan in the fall.
Yeah, but I'd have to order them now if we're gonna do that. But
it's hard to know.
It doesn't really matter, right?
My general rule that I learned the first year and that I accepted in the second year is that once the farming really starts, good luck getting anything done. You know, like good luck getting anything that isn't just.
I thought you keep telling me. He keeps telling me that he's going to be able to get so much done.
Well, I am going to get so much done, and because of that, we'll be able to go to the market twice a week, and the farm will look nice, and we'll have videos being put out. But there is a limit to the amount of stuff that you can do, right? There's just and once that farming starts, we just can't do projects. So I don't know if I'll be able to get the stumps dug up until the fall. And
yeah, and I'm fine with that.
If that's what it is,
putting in a fall order for spring for next year.
But we want like 100 peonies.
Yeah, like not a huge,
but
amount.
Enough so that we can have a good, flush of them come in the spring.
You know,
they're so pretty.
I'm cautious about the perennials because the space is so limited on the farm. And perennials, like they're a commitment. So I want to limit how much space is in perennials and in flowers too, because that's not the majority of our business.
This is also something that
BYOB.
Yeah,
I like that.
that we realized last year is that basically all the food there, we have that fence, that chain link fence that separates our what we call our yard from the farm, and everything. We used to have some food kind of growing up in that, and now we're basically every year we're kicking the food out further down the farm. And everything around the greenhouse is just going to be flowers.
Yeah.
There might be some kales or some cabbages growing in the shady areas, but it's going to be pretty minimal. And almost all of that is going to be flowers. So
Yeah,
It's
because
gonna
our
look beautiful
thinking, our
around.
thinking is that is going to be the area where we have a farm stand. And then if there's a farm stand there, you know, it's going to be this like really pretty little spot for people to come, you know, so it serves the purpose.
Yeah, and also originally the idea of having food up there was that if the kids are playing, because they're going to be locked up in the yard while we're down on the farm.
You know, it's good to be aspirational.
Like that literally didn't happen once. never have the kids been contained by that fence. It maybe narrows their passageways, so they have to go through a gate so you can catch them.
I feel like having the fence is going to be valuable for having the farm stand because it's going to fence people out of the farm, though.
Yeah, and I still want to do the original reason that the fence is so tall. Like it's got that top rail thing, is that we want to like grow grapevines.
Yeah.
And hardy kiwis all along that fence, and so it's just going to be this wall.
Yeah, it was built to be a trellis.
Yeah.
So it, you know, it's still.
We just haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah. I told Leah, she, like, because the kids always flip through the wholesale catalogs with me, and she really wanted a clematis. Did it? Yeah, I said that right, I think. She was like, oh, they're so pretty. And we have a really good nursery, you know, because I don't need 20 clematis.
Yeah.
But we have a really good nursery in town. So I told her that this spring I'd take her. She'd get to pick 2 clematis, and then we'd plant them over so they could like grow up the trellis over where the gate is, and it'll be like a really pretty little spot.
What about a wisteria?
No, we tried wisteria. That. They're not cold hardy enough for here. Okay, enough of this flowers, because the thing that's really exciting is the veggies.
I'm gonna go check quickly.
Okay. So what's the title of this video again? Like farm season starts soon. So, you know, all winter I've been talking like, oh, March, once March comes, it's gonna be go time. And I don't know what happened to February. It's March now, so it's like, you know, and I know today is still the last day of February, but in my head it's March. So it's go time. I've looked back over everything that I said last year, because last year and what I've done in the past is I start my tomatoes and my hot peppers and my sweet peppers now. Like this is the time when I'd start them because we plant out here beginning of May, and so like 8 weeks. 8 weeks is kind of like the perfect amount of time for those to be nice strong seedlings. But my plants grew so quickly under my better lights last year that I said, no, that's too early. The seedling, like, you know, they were sad because I can't actually pot up my tomatoes until later into April. Because how it works is I have limited amounts of space under light. I have 2 racks, and I think in total I can have 40 trays. So, you know, there's only so much. That seems like a lot, right? Because a tray holds so much. But I need to grow like seedlings for my seedling sale. I need to grow seedlings like tomato and pepper seedlings for the sale. I need to grow seedlings for the farm in the tomatoes and peppers. And then I also need to be starting things indoors that are cold hardy that can get planted out before that beginning of May time. So, you know, like I do actually start growing, you know, some like lettuce, bok choy, kohlrabi, that kind of stuff starts getting started in March, and then I plant out in April before that last frost. So I'm very constrained with the lights, but we don't have a heated greenhouse. Like our greenhouses are just, they're, you know, just, they heat up in the day. They get nice and hot in the day. But at night, they only provide about 1 degree or 2 Celsius. So what is that, like 2 or 4 degrees Fahrenheit difference between the outside temperature and the inside temperature. So if it is going to freeze at night, the greenhouse will not protect my tomatoes. They will die. And then all of that work is for nothing. So I need to time my tomato seedlings so that so they don't outgrow the seedling trays before the nights are cold enough to not be freezing, right? If there's a frost, it's fine. They're protected from the frost, but they're not protected from overnight freezing temperatures. So
because like a 72 tray becomes like 6 trays.
So one tray becomes it becomes 4 trays.
4 trays?
When I do it in the paper pots. We bought some off-size things last year that like held nothing. Or like they didn't fit. They didn't fit. That was like us being like desperate. I was like, I got a cold and then I like couldn't keep up with everything in the spring because I was just like not feeling healthy enough. And so we bought some.
At our local farm store, which is good for some stuff.
Yeah, our local farm store is good, but I'm just never gonna buy anything.
But they'll be like, oh, it's good quality. It's really good. And then it's just like trash.
Yeah, because we're willing to pay extra money to get good quality. And they're like, well, this is the best of the best. And we're like, no, this is trash. And we paid 5 times more than trash for it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We're kind of done.
We're done with them. But that's fine because I know I have sources.
New source. Yeah. That's one of those learning things. But the point is, 1 tray becomes 4 trays.
Yeah, 1 tray becomes 4 trays. And
70 trays becomes, 300 trays or something like that.
And last year we had the issue. We had these. April had some really cold nights, and so I needed to move the stuff out into the daylight during the day. But then we had to move it back inside at night because it was freezing. We made the decision that once we hit that point, if the weather like that happens again, like it's gonna cost us $1 million. But we'll just like run a space heater in the space to keep it above 0 overnight. Because it doesn't have to be much. But yeah,
I had a point last spring where because I was just bending over all the time and kind of like I can work on my knees all day if I'm like doing some construction stuff. I'm not too bad about that. But when I'm like bending over at the waist, it's like every time I bend over, the air gets pushed out of my lungs just because I'm not super flexible. And I think I had a day where I got like really low oxygen levels in my blood or something because I felt really bad, and there was about 48 hours. It was right at the tail end of dealing with all the frost, and I just felt I was like on the couch and I felt really guilty about like taking any sort of time off.
As he should.
Yeah, because it was like busy time.
Yeah, and I was like literally dying.
But I felt really bad. So the long-term plan is that we are gonna have, because we bought a new greenhouse.
Or this is the long-term plan. I bend over, Ian lifts heavy things.
Yeah.
That basically is the long-term plan.
But we don't have to in the future to do the nursery sale. We won't have to move the trays in and out because we got this big greenhouse on order.
Which isn't gonna fix the problem.
It's not gonna fix the problem this year.
Like, we have to get heat.
Yeah, but it'll be one that we'll set up with heat, and it won't be like a heated greenhouse.
We don't have a solution for that yet.
Where it's like it's not gonna be tropical temperatures in the wintertime in Canada winter, but in that
it would be like we could turn it on in March. We could turn heat on in March. Where it only needs to
overnight
warm up, keep it above 0 overnight.
Yeah.
So that we can now expand the seedlings that we're doing, right? And it wouldn't be like, oh, we're gonna heat it to 80 because then we get good germination in tomatoes. It's gonna be like, no, we have heat mats. That
it's heating things, only a couple degrees, right? Because it's what's the coldest you're gonna get for a freeze at that time of year, like -5 or something overnight. So the most you'd have to do is like a handful of degrees. Most nights it would just kind of be here and there. So it's not like we're heating the world.
It's gonna cost us $1 million to run the heat, but the plan is that the seedling sale should make enough money.
And the seedling sale, we think that there's a lot of potential there for it, and when we can leave everything in place and water everything where it's at,
The labor,
and then we don't have to move them in and out. It's like suddenly the majority of the labor that is associated with us doing the seedling sale is gone, and now we can work just as hard and
so now we can
more
grow.
product.
We can, we can still work all the hours of all the days, but we can grow 4 times as much.
Yeah.
It's a double wall. It's a double walled greenhouse, so the insulation will be better, and we also
it's gonna look so good because we're gonna have all these like greenhouses, not right away, but we're gonna line up all the greenhouses.
Yeah, the farm's gonna look great. The farm,
because
this
this
color
year
palette with our all the doors to all the greenhouses.
We're opening beds up
painted.
basically all the way down to the bottom of the property this year, and then we're moving across.
We do low tunnel in the greenhouses, but it's still it's a greenhouse gives us 1 degree of warmth overnight, and then the low tunnel gives us the 2 degrees. But it's not the difference between it really does very little.
Yeah. So basically along this side of the property, that's where all the beds are kind of aligned to, and I'm almost down to the bottom because I have to till, and then I get rocks out, and then I can till a little deeper, and then I get more rocks out, and then I can till a little deeper, and I can get more rocks out and stumps and roots and all this stuff, and eventually I get full depth with the tiller, and then that's when it's ready to start mixing in compost and turning it into farm beds. And I'm almost down to the bottom of the property, opening up beds, and then I'm gonna start taking up. I'm gonna redo that fence line for the chickens. They are getting less space because they're lazy ladies.
But that was always the plan.
That was always the plan.
Yeah.
And they're gonna kind of have like a little strip that goes like all the way down the property, so they're kind of like a buffer, and that'll be fun for them. And then do another section of beds that start coming back up along this side of the property. And so like these drone shots are going to be so impressive because it's not just going to be like, oh, here's a strip of farm. It's going to be like, here's like the whole property just packed in with,
all farm.
With beds.
Anywhere that it's not farm, decorative gardens.
Yeah. And there's going to be like some perennials that we eventually work into the farm area as well. And it's going to be...
our plan is eventually we want landscaping around the outbuilding. Like we want like gardens around the outbuilding. Eventually we want like landscaping around our house. Right now it's just like dead.
My goal is to make a place that looks like it can be in a magazine shoot. That's kind of, I'm like, if we get to that point, then that is, my idea is that
that's my vision too.
Is that somebody shows up to this place and is like, oh my God, I live around the corner from this little slice of paradise. I want to shop here just so I can come.
Just come. An excuse to come to the farm.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Right. And then like, we like mentioned briefly in the Food on the Farm video that we released today, about how like workshops and stuff, and that is like part of the vision, right? It's like we have this space, right? Because like there's so much space. Like I feel really like overwhelmed and guilty sometimes about how much like indoor like square footage we own because it's just we bought this place because the price was right and for the land.
We bought this place.
We didn't buy this. Yeah. We didn't buy this because we were like, oh, we need 4,500 square feet of like house.
The house isn't 4,500 square feet,
but the outbuilding's 2,000.
Yeah, so
right? And
together
the house
they're
is
4,500.
like, so it's like it's a crazy number. And then so we're not allowed to use the space, the outbuilding for people to live in at all. So if that can become like a space where it's like a space for education or like or just used, right? Like we don't want to have these spaces that are just excessive. Well,
I don't think that a functioning farm will have any trouble filling up that space, especially when you have so much like bouquet making.
Yeah, totally.
We're
on the Ian and I are on the same page about this, right? Like there's so much potential with that outbuilding.
Yeah, the outbuilding.
Right? Like when we moved, like it was a selling feature. It was like we could do so many things with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We looked at other places. This was the smallest property in the area that we looked at when we were seriously like looking. A lot of them were in the 5 to 6 acre range.
Yeah, because most properties aren't this small. Because we're 2.5 acres.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the thing about it is we have no shade. It's, you know, there's a gentle slope, but it's almost all like flat. Because a lot of the areas out here will have this like rocky forest area, and it's like you can do what you want there. You're not turning that into a farm.
Yeah,
you know, and you could have like
when we bought, we were looking for farm. And we right? Like, so it wasn't like we were like, we need 10 acres. We were like, we need enough space for farm.
Mm-hmm. And we saw other places that had houses that were a lot more what we were looking for. But like I do love this house. This house, it's weird. And sometimes like when I'm standing in the hallway that's just outside of our room here, the floors are so slanted that I feel
the bedtime alarm is totally on the way.
Yeah. I feel intoxicated standing inside. Like when all the doors are shut and it's kind of like your equilibrium is off a little bit. It really, because the floors are that slanted. And there's just projects like everywhere. You know, there was other houses that were a lot more suited. There's other houses that were a lot more suited to what we wanted, and that aren't as scary. So the reason this house is really intimidating because it's got a stone foundation from 120 years ago, and this house has shifted a lot, and we don't know what it's going to continue to do. And it's like so big and tall and expensive to maintain, and there's sections of flat roof. It's very intimidating. So we need to like make some money so that this house can, you know, the farm needs to make money
so that we can afford this house.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, so like when we bought the land here, because another thing too is there were so many pieces of property that we looked at in the 5 acre range, and the house was like in the middle of the property. It had like this big long driveway, and there was like a house, you know, and it was just where buildings were placed weren't efficient, you know. And the thing about this place is the house is right on the road. The outbuilding is like as close as you can legally build to the fence line, right? Like it kept very open for the space.
Yeah, the space is very usable and efficient still. And none of the other places had anything close to that outbuilding. There was other places that we looked at that had, you know, like big 3-car garage, separate building type shop space garages. But
I mean, this wasn't like our first choice, right?
Well,
if you disregarded price, this wasn't our first choice.
If you disregarded price, then it wasn't our first choice.
Right? There was a place that was our first choice. And it was like already a farm, and the house was like a lot better. It was like a modest, you know, it was like the perfect house for us. It had, you know, the right amount of bedrooms.
It was a beautiful house.
Yeah. And very easy, very easy for, you know, for living in and stuff. And it already had like a garage that was set up for like a farm store.
And it had a separate 2-bedroom house.
Yeah, and then it had a rental on property that was like, it was fine. You actually could rent it.
But they wanted over $400,000 more than this place.
Yeah. No, because they had a ridiculous. They had it like, it was majorly overpriced.
They had bought it because we checked MLS.
Yeah,
they bought it like 3 years before or something.
For like
that.
2 years before, and they wanted to sell it for $500,000 more than what they bought it. And we were like, eye roll, someone regrets buying a farm much.
Yeah, totally.
I was like, yeah, if you can make $500,000 extra, you can go and buy a place mortgage free, and you don't have to worry about farming.
All the places that we looked at are in our little community here that we're in. So, you know, they're just down the road in one direction or another direction. One of them is like down at the bottom of the hill, down, you know, in that darkness. And that one that we were talking about, it never sold.
On a ship deck. Oh, there we go. Yeah, the house totally. I laugh because we haven't had this experience like since living in the house. Because there's only so much of it in the house. But when I came to look at the house for the first time, it was during an open house. And so there was a bunch of families walking around through the house, like lots of adults up and down the stairs, like moving in the structure. And I was like upstairs and I could feel like the house moving with the movement of the people moving in the house. And it, like, I was like, oh.
I still, all the time, the kids are just like, and like our poor hardwood floors, like if I step on it, I can feel it like bowing underneath your feet.
Yeah, but that's not like the kids didn't do that.
No, they didn't do that. But I'm like, they're gonna break a bunch of boards.
The decay of time did that.
Our little entropy forces, a little.
They're definitely gonna literally leave their mark on the house. Okay, but back to farm planning. Okay, so I told you guys the plan for the tomatoes. No, I didn't.
Cornucopia.
Okay, so I told them. So I'm not supposed to start tomatoes. We're going like we're going way back. I'm not supposed to start tomatoes until mid-March here because of all that stuff that I was saying about the time. But we plant our tomatoes, our personal tomatoes, inside a greenhouse, right? So at the point at which I can have the tomato plants in the greenhouse growing for the seedling sale, I also could have them planted in the ground in a greenhouse for our farm. So my plan is this week I want to be starting the tomatoes that we're going to be growing for the farm. I'm going to get them into the germination chamber. I'm going to get them going so that I can then have them, kind of ready to go as soon as the weather is nicer. To get planted into the ground so that I can do, hopefully, fingers crossed, get my tomatoes a little bit earlier this year than they were last year. So that's what I got coming up for tomatoes. I have the farm's tomatoes starting this week. So I'm gonna do some cherry tomatoes, and I'm going to be doing the main big tomato that I'm doing is pink Berkeley tie-dye. So I'm going to start up a bunch of those. I think the plan is that we're going to have like 100 of the pink Berkeley tie-dye. And then I'm still waiting on my Juliets. I don't have my Juliet yet, but I have these like Juliet type tomatoes from Johnny's that we did last year as an experiment that we loved, the bronze torch and the red torch, and so those I'm gonna be getting going. And then my Juliet's, worst case scenario, I know I can buy those at the local nursery. So worst case scenario, I can always buy like stupid early tomatoes, because they always have them available, and I'm always like, why do they even have these? Like, who's buying?
Because people want to buy them, and then they take them home and they kill them, and then they come back later. This is my 15-minute warning, and then I'm gonna go give the kids a shower and get them ready for bed.
Okay. So you're here for another 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. I love the smell of tomato plants too. I like when they're the little babies, and I like run my hands and my face on them, and I'm like, oh, I love you.
The little hairs that they got are so cute.
I know. When you like mist them, and then they're all like, you can see their little hairs. Okay, so I saw the question about the Lisianthus. My germination rate on my Lisianthus is about 50% at this point. But we will see. We will see. There's still plenty of time for me to kill those plants,
or to not get flowers from them.
Yeah, because Lisianthus is the worst.
We're gonna next year. I think we're just gonna buy.
Yeah, we are never gonna grow Lisianthus from seed ever again, because I spent like $100 on Lisianthus seed, and then depending on how beautiful they are, I may or may not buy plugs.
When you buy wholesale, you can start buying like flats of somebody else starts your plants for you, and you just buy it by the flat.
Yeah, and if I do that, I'd maybe buy like a bunch of stuff you know, as soon as like
As soon as you start opening,
as soon as you open the door of wholesale, to me, things get really dangerous.
Yeah.
This is basically like the story of our marriage. I'm like, hey, Ian, can I buy something wholesale? And then like bad things happen.
Yeah.
Or sometimes good things, like the dinner plate dahlias. Okay. What also things for the farm? I am all excited because it's been so nice this week. It's been like crazy nice, like 10 Celsius, like
coming up this week, yeah.
Or like I feel like Saturday was like 10.
I haven't seen 10 yet, but
so in the greenhouse, I'm pretty sure the thermometer's broken. I was in one of our greenhouses that's all closed up the other day, and it said it was 40 in there, and I was like, I don't think it's 40 because I'm not like taking my coat off.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, so I think my thermometer's broken, but it was like it was hot. It was for sure like high 20s Celsius. But yeah, no, I think it got up to 10 yesterday, like especially because it was sunny. So it was so nice. I was like, oh, it's so great. And almost all of our snow is melted, and the wetness from like winter snow melting is kind of disappearing. So I went and I grabbed our pitchfork, which is like stabbed into the garden. At no point did we ever move it. And I went to dig up some of the carrots to see how the carrots did, because we got minus 20 Celsius. So everything's pretty dead, as if you watched the video, as we kind of showed.
Last year we overwintered a bunch of carrots.
Yeah,
carrots, they weren't too bad.
Because it's like how far down is like
the tops?
The tops were like meh, not great.
Yeah.
But you like break that off and you still have like 3-4
not
inches
stuff
of
that
carrot.
not stuff that we were selling, but stuff
for us
that we were
definitely
eating.
like.
And Serena grabbed a bunch of the good-looking carrots and then planted them up in the flower farm, and in no time, she had Queen Anne's lace.
Queen Anne's lace all over the place.
There's your hot tip for today. I think we hot tipped it already
I think that was in the flower video.
Yeah, but just like,
a carrot is Queen Anne's lace.
Yeah. So second year, biannual.
Yeah, okay, so I grabbed the pitchfork and I went to dig up some of the carrots, and the ground is like still frozen. It's like, this deep is about how far I could get the pitchfork in.
Yeah.
After that, it was like ding, like rock hard frozen ground. So it's coming, but
it'll probably be here this week.
It's not there yet. But as soon as the ground isn't frozen, then we can start working the ground, and then I'm putting my first seeds into the ground. So stuff like my carrots,
beets.
Well, it's kind of
a bit early for them.
It's hard for beets to germinate. I could try to germinate them inside and then transplant them. I really don't want to do that. I know farms do that with a lot of success.
You need to go to those super big beets to do that.
I'm like, I just don't care about beets that much.
So that a bunch is only like 5 beets as opposed to having
or
a
like
bunch of 12 beets.
We have to be able to sell our beets for $1,000, and then I'll do that. But yeah, so carrots, what else? Lettuce, it's kind of early. Basically, but definitely carrots. Carrots as soon as I can work the ground. And then like maybe some mustards, because if we don't sell them, we'll just like eat 50 feet of mustard.
Well, we won't eat 50 feet of it, but we'll try our best.
Yeah, because so at this point, my thinking is I don't want any veggies ready too early. So I want to have all of my veggies. I want all my spring veggies to be able to come online at the same time. And there's some things that I want as early as possible, like carrots. I want carrots as early as possible, but carrots take like 75 days, right? So even if I planted them March 1st, and it was like absolute perfect conditions, best case scenario, it's still into May when we get it. But I don't want to go out there and on the first day I can work the ground to plant radishes, because I don't want to have to try to figure out how to sell all these radishes when I don't have anything else, and I don't actually have any plans to be selling. I'm hoping. I want our season. Are you?
I'm
Are you twitching? Or are you?
I'm holding it on.
Oh, okay. Just yawn.
Well, I was. But then I was mad at it.
Oh, okay. He's like winking and like twitching at me. I'm like, what are you? What did I say something? Yeah. So I'm thinking like May 1st is when I want stuff to be ready. I'm thinking like we won't do any farmers markets. And we won't really, push any sort of sales until May. And then it's going to be like just 100% go time.
Yeah, then it's 2 markets a week.
Because then it'll be like seedling sale, and veggies, all going.
Sounds like a lot of work.
It's going to be a lot of work. April is crazy town.
The early May was crazy town. Crazy town. Because, we had so many orders that we were picking, and then people were coming.
Everyone lost their mind because of COVID last year, and so they were all like, "Oh my god, I need to like plant a garden."
True fact, nobody's found their mind yet. They're all still lost.
But yeah, so the seedling sale was like scary. It was like so intense. Like we're still not ready. We have like seedling sale PTSD.
Yeah.
But not actually.
No, but it was.
But it was like whoa, do we ever want to do that again?
It was physically challenging, and it wasn't in any way monetarily rewarding, in the sense that we made $7,000 off of it. But
it was kind of the make it or break it for a season.
Yeah, like it's important, and I think we keep building it, and it builds into something bigger.
Yeah. But if it was like not busy and we only sold like 4,000, we would have gladly have taken that hit.
Chop it
Been like, oh, like
I could see selling $30,000 or something in that range in the spring.
For sure.
Once we're all set up, so it's like it's worth to keep nurturing that business and to keep growing that side of the business, because it's a good kickoff to the season. And
I mean, let's put it this way with the dahlias. So we're gonna have 400 dahlias this year. They're going to be here. Get a calculator because it's not even.
My phone's charging.
Oh. Well, they're going to be $12 for the dahlias, and so that means that the dahlias would be
almost $5,000.
Yeah, like $4,800 just in the dahlias if we can sell them all. I don't think we're actually going to sell them all. But
we had some tuber loss last year.
I think we also, I think we'll do I think we won't be affected by tuber loss. I think we will have leftovers though. I don't think we're going to be able to necessarily, but who knows?
We could have sold way more of them last year. So I don't know. I think that they're just like a limitless sell.
Yeah. I mean, we sold 150.
And then how many of the lilies did we sell last year?
We sold a few. Don't give me this look. I potted up some lilies and sold them at the seedling sale for $10.
Poorly.
Yeah, but I only needed to sell 5 of them to get my money back.
Yeah.
Which I totally did.
You sold 5 of them, but you didn't sell much more than that.
I for sure covered sure covered the cost.
Time is money.
You know what?
It's all worth a shot.
You're costing me money then right now, making me listen to you complain about potted lilies. Okay. Yeah. So planting. I plant soon. I can definitely be planting soon in the ground. As soon as it's not frozen.
Yeah.
Stuff in the ground. Which means I need to order my compost.
Yeah.
I haven't done that yet. I was like, I need to order it in March. And March snuck up on me. I have so many things that were on my list, but
they probably still have the road. I don't know when the road ban goes off, but they can deliver more when the road ban.
Really?
Off. Because
I'm less worried. I was super paranoid about what the summer was going to be like with COVID last year. So I wanted our entire year's worth of compost.
Once we had dirt sitting on the compost sitting on our property, we're like, okay, we can grow stuff in this. we are going to
Yeah.
survive the summer no matter what.
Because you tarp it, and then it's like, it doesn't go bad, right?
And the place that we get it from, I think they said that when the road band's on, they can deliver like 23 yards or something.
24, I think.
And then when the road band's off, then they can do something like 40.
Their truck holds 40.
Yeah.
But I think our road is always limited. I think our road
they were talking about
is weighted for less than 40 yards. But
40 yards for the weight.
Yeah. But less than 40 yards. Right? Like, we could only get 30.
Road bands are like 75% of your GVW.
This is boring.
The point is.
Yeah, the point is, when we order compost from them, we want the most they can possibly bring us.
Yeah, because it's like a $200 delivery fee.
Because it's a $200 delivery fee. And so if we're dividing that over 24 yards or we're dividing that over 40 yards, it makes a difference for the total. But even if I can only get 24 yards at once, I'm more than happy because I really like the compost from this place.
The compost from this place is so nice that I'm like, we should talk to them about, when we do the nursery sale, selling bagged versions of it, because it's just like, it's so nice. So nice. People were getting us to shovel it into the boot of their car. Last year, multiple times.
It's for some reason you want I need a bucket of compost. It's
whatever, just scoop. It's nice.
Yeah, it's really nice.
We're lucky to have it.
Let's talk a little bit about bed prep.
Okay, this is actually my.
And then you have to go.
Well, this is my silent time.
So you're not going to do it? You're not going to stay for 5 more minutes?
No, because I want to get the kids to bed in a reasonable time.
That is a reasonable request to go and put the kids.
Bedtime is 15 minutes, and I still have to, wrangle them, clean them, brush their teeth, read them their stories.
For some reason, Ian always wants to give them a shower. Don't turn on the fan, though.
Okay.
Because it vibrates through the... Okay. I will then talk about bed prep.
Thank you.
That's like one of those ones that's like hard to say.
But I'm giving you your 45-minute warning.
Yes. I'm almost done. I'm almost gone through the entire list. And then we'll answer a couple questions, and then I have to go do bedtime. Okay, but get out of here. You're boring. Get out of here. Wanting to talk about GVD. No one cares about that. Let's talk about bed prep. Okay. I was going to get Ian to do this because Ian does this for me because the spring is so crazy and so much of our bed prep happens in the spring. So what he does is he will till the section, we clear off any weeds that are, easy to clear off. And then he spreads compost. Yeah, I'm like thinking back. I'm like, what does he do? Okay, first we put down some fertilizer. We have don't ask me for recommendations. We just have we buy whatever the farm store recommends. So they're like, here, it's an organic fertilizer. We spread a bit of that down, and then he either tills that in and then puts compost on top. Or he puts the compost down and then tills the bed and the fertilizer and the compost all together, just to, kind of basically using the compost as, fertility into the farm. We don't always till. We till. Our plan is we're going to till our brains out over, the next handful of years, because the main thing that we're fighting on the farm is like a rhizomal grass, and like a trick for being able to get rid of it is you just till it. You till it and you till it and you till it. You just keep breaking up the rhizomes, and it never has a chance to come back. From just how much it gets disrupted. So it's basically the absolute lowest effort way to use to use the land without having to like pre-prep it, right? Like if to kill this kind of grass, we could put down a tarp, and then leave it. But even that, like, so you can leave it for a year, but even that is a little bit difficult where we are because it's so dry where we are. You need the ground to be wet enough to like, because these nasty grasses, they basically can go like dormant without the water. Like it's like, we just don't, it doesn't get any water for 6 months and it just like goes dormant. And then because it's dormant, all these tricks to like kill it makes it like it doesn't really do anything. And then it gets water again and it's away it goes. So the putting the tarp down doesn't always, like, you almost need like 2 years here ideally to do it. I would like to be able to, Ian was talking earlier about how we're gonna have like beds. We're like gonna be trying to put in all these beds where we want them to be going forward. Ideally, I'd really like this year to get some sections, kind of like prepared, like planned. We could like put down a tarp, just have it covered, give a year or two for this grass to die. But yeah, so basically we're fighting this grass. And then so when I talked about the compost, we put down about 4 to 6 wheelbarrows of compost per 50-foot bed. And then the fertilizer we just use to whatever it says to use. And depending on the crop, sometimes I'm like, no, the compost has to be on the top. And one of those crops is carrots, right? I'm like, no, get it like nice and ready. And then put a layer of compost because I want to be seeding into the compost. And that works really good. Even for stuff that isn't. The compost, a lot of the perk of the compost for us is its ability to hold moisture. Like it seems crazy to be like, oh, the thing that's so great about compost is it holds moisture. So many people are fighting moisture, especially in the spring. But it's just so dry here. Like anything that we can do to put more sponginess into our soil really helps. Because ideally, I like to water every second day, and there's no water, right? There's literally no water unless the only water that gets into the farm is what we irrigate into the farm. So exactly, I saw someone saying Charles Dowding treats the compost as mulch. Same idea, right? Like the compost it holds moisture on the surface for germinating those seeds, and it like traps moisture in for the layers below. Our drain it's just like crazy. I always call it like our sand pit. And like we do, it's not actually a sand pit. We have because we've like dug down through it multiple times, and we have like a pretty good layer of topsoil. Like we have a good 8 inches to 14 inches of nice topsoil. And it is sandy. And oh yeah, we buy compost. We buy like dump trucks, multiple dump trucks worth of compost every year. Yeah, so our soil's sandy, but we do have a lot of topsoil. And then after that, we have this like silt layer. And I'm very concerned about disrupting this silt layer, because as far as I can tell, what it is doing in my ground is it is the point at which there is some drainage issues, right? So it's like the topsoil, drains really well, and then I think it hits this silt layer, and then it's a little bit slower draining. But after that, it's just sand. Like once you like, I can see it when we dig down. Topsoil, this like silt layer, it's about like a 1/2 inch thick, and then just sand and rocks. So I don't want to disrupt the silt layer, because I want this layer in there to make it so it's slowing the water down. It's not just instantly draining away, hits that layer, and maybe now the moisture is like filling back up to like really nicely saturate before it soaks through. So I don't want to lose that. But part of that is why, like, I'm not overly worried about if we do some tilling that it's gonna cause compaction issues. Because if anything, if I could make that silt layer a little bit thicker, that would be amazing. But I mean, that isn't how it works. Like we're lucky. We have amazing land. We have amazing soil. Obviously the no rain makes growing in Kelowna complicated, but we also, we've had, Kelowna has had like irrigation systems since forever. Like not forever, we're not like Mesopotamia or anything. But we've been using irrigation for growing in Kelowna for like the last 150 years. And our, people ask about this sometimes, but so we have lakes all around us. But most of our water doesn't come from lakes. Because, so we're up above the lake, right? If our water was to come from the lake, then we'd have to have like a pumping system to get the water back up to us. Most of the irrigation systems in the Okanagan are from, they're like gravity fed irrigation systems, and they're from, I'm having like a brain fart for words here, like snowpack, like snow melt. So most of our moisture it's like coming down from the hills, like snowpack, and then it's like being stored and then let down. So we, our irrigation systems, even though we're so dependent on them, they're not overly complicated irrigation systems. So that there is some perks. And then we are sensitive to drought. Like in Kelowna has had issues with drought. But because we're this like valley and we're surrounded by mountains, right? Like, so the lakes, the water level can get really low on the lakes, from drought. But so much of the water that's coming into our water systems is like from the mountains. So usually, even when there's a lot of drought in the valley, it's not necessarily like dry desert conditions up in the mountains surrounding. So we do have some stability from that. But yeah, water. When you live in Kelowna, you think about water a lot. I watered today, which is like crazy. I was listening to so Lisa Marie Ziegler. I listen to podcasts and books on tape because they can go in my pocket when I don't have internet. And so Lisa Marie Ziegler has a new podcast, and she's like a flower farming educator. But so I was listening to this podcast where she's talking about like, there's all these flowers and you want to plant them out, but you have to like prep your soil in the fall because everything's too wet in the spring. So if you didn't prep your soil in the fall, you won't be able to plant because everything will be too wet. And as she's like talking about this, I'm like dragging hoses because I have to like literally go water my plants because my plant, like, I have all these flowers that I planted out and they're dying because it's so dry from how hot it is in my greenhouse. It's just, the greenhouse is covered The rest of my farm doesn't need to be watered. But here in Kelowna, if you have like pots and stuff, you have to water your pots in late winter, or else they'll get too dried out and they'll completely die.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sam knows all about, right? That's your favorite, isn't it? Do you love playing with the water?
Yeah, I make the swimming pool.
You make a swimming pool?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's been begging me every day, like, when can I turn the water on? Right? We call him Irrigation Sam, because Sam loves irrigation.
Yeah.
He loves watering.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's your favorite, isn't it? For his birthday, one year we bought him.
Mommy, tomorrow is Daddy's birthday.
No, Daddy's birthday's not for a few months.
Huh?
More than that. Yeah, for his birthday we bought him all this like irrigation pipe. You know, and we're like, oh Sam, if you're really good for your birthday, like we'll bring you down to the irrigation store and you can like buy some like new wobblers. You know, it's good to have a whole family of people who like to get their birthday gifts at the farm store. Yeah. So I don't know. Did I answer the question of like what we do to prep our beds? We really we don't. It's not that technical. You know, I try to at this point the farm is covered in dead plants everywhere, and I keep those in place to have food for the birds, as well as like some habitat for like good bugs to survive. You know, probably I basically I don't clean up the farm until right before I need to use the farm. The greenhouses I probably should work on cleaning up this week, just to that one that is no birds are going and hopping around on my dead tomatoes. But I find it a lot easier to clean up in the spring because all the plants they're like dried out, and it goes from being like a really physical job to being a dusty job. I'll put on like one of my face masks and and go rip all the stuff out. But it's very simple to do. You just go through. The flower farm, I know like the chickadees spend the entire winter eating all my seeds up, helping me eat through as many self-seeded flower seeds as possible, because the flower farm would always, it's like a nightmare, that section, for how many seeds get thrown on the ground. Oh, now I have yawns. I think Daddy's looking for you. He's giving you a shower. Sam loves water, so usually the offer of a shower is a...
You showed me.
Put the chickens to bed first.
Oh, we forgot about our chickens.
Well, I didn't.
Well, they're Ian's chickens, so I forget about the chickens all the time. Okay, someone was asking about like the tilling. So we have a BCS, and the only attachment that we have is a tiller. We probably would like to get, so there's an attachment called the Precision Depth Roller, and what it does is it makes it so you can control how deep the tiller goes, and so then you can add this on to your BCS, and then instead of like tilling like all the depth of the tines, you can make it so it just like chews up the top of the soil, which a lot, so people do that and they call that making like a seed bed, or is that the term? Basically the idea of, so there's tools like a tilther, and it just like rips up the surface of the soil, so then it makes it, when you are using a seeder, that it's like really easy to run these like tools along the surface. It's like really easy to like plant, kind of breaking up the top surface. If you have like clay, it can get like kind of hard packed. We have really nice soil here, so it's never that bad at any point. It's not like we till to break up the ground, where we really do a lot of our tilling specifically just to kill grass. And so that's the reason why I imagine that in the future we will be doing a lot less tilling. Though, like if we're doing cover crops, it definitely makes the cover crops like break down a lot quicker, to be able to do to till them into the ground, right? Like, I'm sure that what I do now and what I do 2 years from now is going to be majorly different. Like at this point, like we made that video where we're talking about, can you grow it? Can we sell it? And so much of the focus is on the can you sell it? And we're growing more than we know what to do with. So we don't really have to like really narrow in on our growing techniques and like really worry about like increasing, the production in our beds to the absolute 100%. And like, what is the way that is going to make it so, our crops produce in 26 days instead of 28 days. That's all the exciting stuff to look forward to in the coming years, but not quite there yet. But I think that's pretty much what we're up to, what the beginning of the season is kind of going to be. Wood chips. Yeah. I like wood chips for mulching on perennial beds. But the problem with wood chips is if you're going to be doing any sort of cultivation, that like you can't have wood chips, right? Like can't run like a wire weeder over a bed of wood chips. And wood chips plus rhizome grass equals like nightmares. So we used to use like mulch for planting like all of our perennial stuff in at our old place. And our perennial garden beds, like the stuff that's going to be more like home garden, that kind of stuff, we'll put down cardboard around the plants and then like mulch it with wood chips to like hold in the moisture and stuff. We'd have like the irrigation underneath the mulch. But it's you got the internet loves wood chips, and wood chips are amazing, but you definitely need to be being a little bit intentional for like when you use them. We used to use wood chips in our paths of our garden beds, and that wasn't too bad, because we had gardened that area for so long that like the weed seed bank was like pretty low. We didn't really have any rhizome grass in that garden. We had a bit come in every once in a while, because it's everywhere in Kelowna. But so it was easy to hand weed it, and then the wood chips. The problem with the wood chips is they can be like a great spot for stuff to germinate. They hold moisture in, so it's like these really great germination spots, which is good if you have perennials and like the seeds fall and they all germinate and you have your perennials all self-propagating, but not so great if you got weeds everywhere. Yeah, I mean, a lot more water down there. I think it's more about like the systems for the wood chips, right? Like for us, for the farm, for the long term, the plan is definitely going to be like cultivating, right? Like, so that means like ways to deal with weeds. I mean, I make this joke. I'm sure it's not funny, but when you're a farmer, you kill so many weeds you have a new, you don't call it weeding, you call it cultivating. Yeah, and so, you know, like I have a bunch of different hoes, and then farmers, because like they're out there, they're working their land all the time, and it's a lot easier to deal with weeds when they're super tiny, than to have to come in and like really aggressively weed out the bigger weeds. So, you know, lots of farm systems have like a, you know, a schedule of cultivation to kill weeds when they're like teeny tiny. So I didn't really use it last year, but I have this thing called a tine weeder, and it basically looks like if you were gonna rake something on the moon. It's this crazy looking thing, but it's basically, it's got all these like fingers, and they're super soft, right? Like, you know, hit it and it's like ding, like it sounds like it must be some sort of weird musical instrument. But you drag it across your bed, and so then the fingers, they're so soft that they will move, right? So you drag it and you drag it over, here's a transplant, and it doesn't rip the transplant off, like out of the ground, because the tines are so flexible, but it grabs like, you know, all these weed seeds that are just starting to germinate, and it's like the name for when they're so tiny, they call it like thread stage, because they're like, you know, they're just coming up, and so the idea is like once a week you like rake all your beds with this like tine weeder, like you weekly cultivation of your beds with your tine weeder, disturbs the weeds when they're at the thread stage, so they never get any bigger, and so then you never have weeds. And it's not that you don't have weeds, it's that you're disturbing the surface of the soil, and making it so these weeds like can't get established and get growing. But you need to have a very specific type of soil, to do like cultivating with like that specifically, right? Like if your soil was full of like chunks of wood, rocks and stuff, like all these little fingers are gonna like, you know, like get caught up in that. So, you know, it's just different techniques, right? You gotta do whatever works best for the weeds that you're dealing with and the soil that you have, you know, like and that's why like I try as much as possible to express the fact that people really shouldn't be doing what I'm doing, because Kelowna's so weird, right? Like if I was like, oh, I watered my plants today, you know, and everyone else was like, oh, I'm supposed to water my plants today, you know, and you all have clay soil and it's raining and you're like out there, you're like, why did Serena tell me to do this? You know, it's about doing what works, for your conditions. You know, and like, you know, kind of my goal, my hope, is that when I explain what we do on the farm, right? Because Kelowna's so weird. Kelowna's so weird. It's such a weird spot, right? Because it's like we're in Canada, but it gets like super hot, but we have like winter, like it snows and it gets cold, and then there's like no moisture ever, but then we have a really wet June, you know, so like there's very few spots where I personally, can go and like get advice to like just to follow, right? Like very few places are like Kelowna, so you know, I need to grow in the way that works for Kelowna. So my hope is that like when I give you advice, I say what I'm doing and then I tell you why I'm doing what I'm doing, so that you can understand that the process is about recognizing what your specific problem is, and then coming up with a solution that addresses that specific problem, right? So you know, like, because everyone's gonna have different issues, right? Like, and everyone, like, the answers are not gonna be the same for everywhere, right? Like, you know, if you're like, oh, I have really high humidity, and so I'm dealing with all this powdery mildew. You know, like Serena, like I can't grow zinnias because it's like 100% humidity, and they just all die from powdery mildew. You know, and then I'm like, oh, I plant them like 6-inch spacing. You know, my hope is I'm like, I plant them at 6-inch spacing because I don't have to deal with humidity issues, which means I don't have to deal with powdery mildew issues, and therefore I can get away with them closer, right? Whereas, so then you'd be like, oh, there's something about like spacing is the takeaway, right? And then you're like, oh, well, I really struggle with that. So maybe Serena said she can plant at that spacing because she doesn't have humidity. Maybe I need to look at, you know, what other people do for spacing that's differently. I don't know if that makes sense. You know, that basically my goal is not to teach you what I do, but to teach you that I am thinking of solutions to my problems. I don't know. You know, it's I never know. I never know if I'm clear or not. Okay. I can hear the kids. They're still in the shower. So I don't know if anyone has any questions. Get cat haired here. My cat. Yeah, because if anyone has any questions, I'll quickly answer some stuff. And then I'll finish it up. We make sure this doesn't go into the 2-hour range. You know, I always have fun hanging out with you guys. It's always fun to come and chat with everyone. Weeds grew through landscape fabric. I'm gonna assume if weeds grew through your landscape fabric, that might be a landscape fabric issue. Because like, so my one advice about landscape fabric, which I don't know if I've gone on this tangent on the channel, but I rant about this on Facebook all the time. But you can't buy landscape fabric that isn't garbage in like a hardware store. Yeah, if it was cheap, they like, you know, I made this joke because someone was like, oh, I bought like a roll of landscape fabric from the hardware store, but it didn't really do anything, you know. And I was like, oh, you might as well have just like taken a bag of garbage. Like, save yourself the money. Just go take a bag of garbage and like dump it on your garden, and you'll save yourself the effort and the money of putting down that landscape fabric. It's like, those things are just garbage. And I know this because I've made the mistake. You know, like buy it in store 5-year landscape fabric, you know, and it's, you know, just, it's like gross. It like shreds in a day. But yeah, you need to get, like, quite often, you know, like, so yeah, Sunbelt specifically is like a brand. I know when I did my landscape fabric video, I did a lot of research where I personally buy it, so I'm in Canada. So if you guys are in Canada at all, my source is Dubois, Dubois. I think it's Dubois AG, Dubois Ag is their website, and then it's under nurseries or like greenhouses. Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, and so it's, I think they call it nursery fabric or something like that is their name for it. But Sunbelt is like a brand down in the States who makes like the proper you know, landscape fabric that isn't garbage. And then the other thing is, I'm like, if they don't talk about UV protection, right? Because all those ones in the hardware store, there's no mention of UV protection. So them specifically talking about how many years UV protection there is usually a good sign. But yeah, I know because I like try to, because I'm in Canada, right? So I know my sources are always so much different than they are for you guys. Down in the States, I know some, like, 50% of our viewers are in the States. So I usually try, if I'm talking about a specific product, I try to get like an Amazon.com link, just so you guys can like put eyes on what I'm talking about. Yeah, and it was even on Amazon, it was hard to find one that I knew was going to be like what you're actually looking for. And I think people have told me that link doesn't actually lead to a spot where you can buy. But yeah, I think it went specifically to like a Sunbelt brand one, and I I think maybe even tried to see if like Sunbelt had like their own web store. But yeah, it's hard because I know you hear people talk about it and then you go and it's definitely something you have to buy online. But if you're like nurseries or greenhouses, like a greenhouse wholesale warehouse would be like a good source. And or in town, if you wanted to get like one roll, and you're trying to like source it in town, for me personally, the place that I would go look for it would be at an irrigation store, because quite often those like irrigation stores are a supply store for landscapers. And like landscape companies would want the proper landscape fabric. They'd want the one that's actually gonna last. So like to go talk to like a local in-person store, that would kind of be the spot that I check. But in general, like don't buy anything gardening from like Home Hardware. I don't know, what are they, like Home Depot? That's a all of North America one, right? Like don't, anything that you buy from Home Depot is not going to be like a high quality garden item, because they're, that's not, they're selling to beginner people who don't know. Oh, I don't know if that dropped. I don't know. It's cut out there on me for a second. Okay, I saw someone asking if I have any other hobbies other than cats, right? Cats? Kissing cats? This is probably one of my biggest hobbies. I like to sew. But there's not very much time. I don't like to sew clothes. I've sewn a few clothing items, and it made me very grumpy. So I've given up on that. I'm like, no curves. So I've discovered quilting, and I really like quilting because it's all like straight, and then you get to like do math. I like math, so I'm like, triangles. We got to figure out like, so I need like 800 triangles, and if I add them all this way, it'll use the least number of linear yards worth of stitching, which will make it for the quickest, most efficient way to put my quilt together. But this might be like, if you're a quilter, this is probably pretty relatable. I have many like half-finished quilt tops, and I have like an entire room of fabric, but I only have one completed quilt, and it's a Christmas quilt, and we keep it out year round. The plan is that this winter specifically, I was like, I'm gonna take some time for myself, and I'm gonna like finish up one of these quilts so that we can like have like a couch quilt that isn't the Christmas quilt, and the Christmas quilt can get put away into the Christmas stuff and only come out for Christmas time. But it's March now and I didn't do it, so it's not gonna happen. I have a bunch of baby quilts that finished because those are so easy. You can like sit down and do those in like one sitting. Oh yeah, I like quilting, like is engaging with like the online quilting world is dangerous for me because there's so much. You're like, oh, there's just like so much to get excited and inspired about. It's the same as using crafting supplies and acquiring crafting supplies are two different hobbies. Yeah, that definitely that sums up how I feel. Though I will say this, so and I'm not lying. Okay, here I'll show you guys this because I need to end this anyways. Okay, I'll show you guys. I'll show you guys my quilting, my craft room. Because we have too many rooms in this house, so I literally have a room for crafting, for my aspirational room for one of these days when I can get the quilting done. But like, I'm not lying that I have an entire room of fabric. Here, I'll like stand here. Okay, so this is like all those like IKEA units, and so they're like every one of these boxes is like filled to the brim with fabric, and like it should all be in boxes because I know that it's like a lifetime of fabric, so I need it to like be out of the light, because it's, you know, it's going to sit on the shelf for so long that it's gonna fade. You know, like down here, like these are all my these containers, these are all my fat quarters, like so much. Like it's ridiculous. You know, like even okay, so this is fabric piled on top of a dresser, and this dresser isn't just like, oh, I have an empty dresser, I'm gonna use it as a table. This is like filled with fabric, and then in here, these like bins, these are like filled to the brim with fabric, and like it's ridiculous. Here, I'm gonna flip the camera, because like, so these bins, like, you know, this doesn't look unreasonable. This looks like, okay, you know, like you see a little bit of fabric, right? Like if you're gonna like work on something, you know, like, okay, here, so this is all my minky. You know, this is like, oh, you know, like one quilt back is like this, you know, like, you know, you need to have bits of something. But then if you actually like pull these open, and look, there's like so much that it's like, it's not even, so I have this like so that I can get into it. And then I have a problem. So like I never buy, I'm like, oh, I need at least a meter every time I buy fabric. But yeah, so it's just like, these are like crammed. Like these weigh so much. These weigh like so much. Like I can't even like pull them out. I need these are like a 50-pound, right? And it's like every single one of these is just like, you know, all filled, right? Like, oh, look, I got them like sorted by like patterns. It's just like, you know, it was like, I found, oh, here, like, here's all my solids, right? Like, well, you need to have like every color, right? You need to have every color because you never know what you're going to make. I think I actually have like 2 bins. I think I have like 2 bins of solids, but yeah, it never ends. So there's like, it's pretty ridiculous. Like there's more. I think this one is like my holidays prints, you know, in case I ever want to make a second Christmas one, you know. And I went, the funny thing too is I went through and okay, here guys. Okay, so this is the quilt. This is the quilt top that I'm like, well, I have it finished. All I need to do is quilt it. And it's like sitting on my table. Like, this is like me in the fall, like putting it on the table and being like, I'm gonna like quilt. I'm gonna quilt that quilt top. I'm gonna like make that quilt finally. You know, the addiction is real, guys. Like, okay, this is like my quilting. This is my thread. This is like, Because you like if you're gonna like you need to have all the colors, right? You need to have all the colors if you're gonna have all the fabrics. And then I never use anything except for white. Like I have every single color, but then I buy the crazy, like I buy cones. This is like the cones. I buy like big cones in black and white because the only thing I ever use is black and white, even though I own it literally every single color. I think I bought all the colors. Like I bought the thread from Connecting Threads, I think is the company. Connecting Threads. I think they had like a Black Friday sale and their thread was like crazy cheap. And I was like, I'll just buy every color. Once I'll use it eventually. It's cotton thread. It's got like a shelf life of 20 years. But yeah, so definitely. Oh, I'm like compost on top, and I'm like, yeah, that's probably what I should do. I should probably start using all this fabric as compost. My compost is proper. It's not manure. It's like it won't burn any plants. It's very gentle. I'm courageous to show you my room of fabric. I mean, like this room is like proof of how good, like that Ian is the best husband, right? Like when people are like, show me with like one picture how wonderful your husband is. It's like, here, I have a room of fabric. And like my husband is 100% okay with it. Okay, this is like another, okay, so this right here. So what I'm showing you is my sewing machines. And so like this, I'm in love with this sewing machine. This sewing machine is like everything I could ever want in a sewing machine. This is a Baby Lock Jean. And so what it is it only does straight stitch. And then it has this like extra long neck. So like if you want to do like quilts, you have like space to work. And it goes so fast. It goes so fast. The machine. So this is Jane is the name of it. But I've heard that it like has a different name now. It's the category of it is like, I want to say it's like a semi-industrial, but basically it's a straight stitch machine, right? So all it does is like straight line and like so I like when I talk to sewing people, like this is like, this blows my mind. Here, I'll show you guys what this does because I didn't even know this. Here, I'm gonna flip the camera. Okay, show you my favorite thing about Jane. So I'm Canadian, so there's this very, very Canadian band called Bare Naked Ladies. And when I was young, like one of their, like, you know, before they had the hits, like one of their first songs was one of their first hits was this song called Jane, and it's this like love song about this like girl Jane who's just like perfect, like too perfect for them. And I sing it to myself about this sewing machine because Jane's too good for me. But yeah, okay, so here. Okay, so what this is a knee lift. So I'm here and I got like both of my hands on the table and then I got this. And what this does is it does this. Look at how amazing that is, right? Like I can like, don't have to lift the thing. And then it also has this button here. This is like, now I'm just like trying to sell you guys, right? Like this sewing machine that no one really needs. Because this is like a straight stitch machine. Okay, so it has like a cutting button and it like cuts the thread, right? So I can be like working and I'm like sewing and it goes so fast. Okay, let's get the cat away. Okay, I'm gonna blow your ears out with how fast it goes. It goes like so fast, which I love. And I'm like, and I go all fast. And then I'm like, pivot. pivot with the knee lift. And then I'm like, cut it off. Yeah. I love this machine. This machine makes me so happy. But me obsessing about this machine is a story about how wonderful Ian is. And then I'm gonna go because that's everything to show you guys in the sewing room. But so I needed a new sweatshop from Serena's. I don't know if you guys have heard this story, but before we started a farm, I was gonna start this like mitten company. Like this was like my plan. I was like in the process. I have like piles of like mittens. Here, let's see. Do I have? I don't have any half finished. I need to lose a pair of mittens. I just come up here and sew more for myself. But yeah, I was gonna start my own sweatshop, and I needed this for it. I have to have it. It goes so fast, and it's got a knee lift, and it's got this like button, and it's like, but it only does straight stitch. And I'm like, and because it only does straight stitch, I could never use I can't have just it, right? Like if I ever wanted to do some sewing for like myself, if I ever wanted to do have like a zigzag to finish things, I'd need more than just straight stitch. And he was like, so? And I'm like, oh, and it's like kind of expensive. And I'm like, he's like, whatever, just buy it. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not a versatile machine, and I can't find the machine that's as good as what this does. And he's like, then just buy 2 machines. And I'm like, wait, you're telling me to buy 2 sewing machines? You're like, yeah, whatever, just go buy 2 sewing machines rather than go find 1 sewing machine. And he was like, yeah, I don't care, just buy it, if you want it, just buy it. And so yes, so now I have 2. I have I'm upset. I'm saying you're a great husband. He's now being a not great husband because he's coming to heckle me. So this is my oh, it's nice and portable, and it does all this stuff. And if I ever wanted to teach the kids how to use a sewing machine, because this is dangerous, right? This does not go slow. You need to know what you're doing to use this. So I have this basic machine for doing whatever, but this obviously all I ever do is use this because this thing is amazing. But yeah, Ian's so great that he was not only is he yeah, sure, have an entire room of fabric, but he also is yeah, buy 2 sewing machines, I don't care. So that's my story. Yes, sewing machines are not for beginners. I don't know. Okay, so my other one it's Rachel by Baby Lock too, and it has a switch where you can slow down the speed. You make it so it only goes baby speed. So it would be a really good machine to teach people how to use. Yeah, the Rachel by Baby Lock. It would be a great beginner's machine. Eventually I'll teach the kids, but not tonight because I have to go put them to bed. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed laughing at the fact that I literally have a room full of fabric, and that explains what we're up to on the farm, what I will be doing this week, starting tomatoes. So exciting. And thanks so much for hanging out, guys. I'll chat with you all again next week. Okay, see ya.